which is entitled How to Prepare for Adulthood with Sheffield's Family Hubs. We've got Emily Taff. I've not said your name correctly, Emily, have I?
Emily,
How do I? Is it
it's
Taff or
Emily Dave.
Tafe? That's it.
Yeah,
We've got Emily Tafe here, who is an assistant service manager, is that right? In the
that's right.
Sheffield Family Hub service, and she's going to be talking about their offer for young people and families who have special educational needs. And just to start us off, I'm just going to go through some brief housekeeping. Um, so this is part of a series of virtual events on preparation for adulthood that we have been hosting since last year. So this is session number 5. And just a few reminders if you've not joined us before. This session will be recorded and it will be shared with you following the event, and it'll also be hosted on our local offer website. We will be monitoring the chat throughout, so please share questions or comments in there, but please don't share any personal or sensitive information because obviously that will be available to the public. And we'll aim to be finishing on or before 1:30 this afternoon. And just a reminder that all of our previous events are on the local offer on a page which looks like this. I'm going to put the link in the chat so that you can access it. I've learned a lot hosting these events, and I think that you definitely will too. So please do go back and have a look and learn about Sendias, the Preparation for Adulthood Social Care team, our independent travel training service. They're all really, really informative and definitely worth checking out. And I'm going to just pop that link in the chat so that you've got it. And I think we've just got another person waiting. And Emily, if you are ready to share your presentation, that would be great. And just as a reminder, the format for today's session, as with the previous ones, will be a presentation from Emily, and there'll be lots of time for question and answer afterwards. So feel free to add your questions into the chat at any time, and we'll hopefully get to all of them before the end of today's session. So over to you, Emily.
Lovely. Hi, I shall share my presentation, make sure everybody can see that. I now can't see anybody. Oh, no, the few of you at the side. Maria, is that come up okay?
Yes, I can see that.
Great. And if I start, oh, it's giving me that horrible format, but that's absolutely fine. So hi everybody, as Maria said, that my name's Emily Tafe and I am Assistant Service Manager in Sheffield Family Hubs. This is a presentation we do for lots and lots of people. We want people to know about what we do, we want as many people to know about what we do as possible because we are there to support our communities ultimately. And so if you're here today, I would really hope that you will see what we do, but also go away and share and tell people to come and find out who we are as well. So the more people know about us, the better we can support people across Sheffield. So our kind of overarching kind of aim really is about being that warm and welcoming space in the community. We are very much a universal service, meaning that we're a service that is there for everybody across that 0 to 19 and of course 25 range for where children and families have people within them that have special educational needs. And whilst the activities and delivery that my team do are within that 0 to 5 range, actually we want to be able to make sure that they were there to offer help, support, signposting and connection for families across the landscape of support for families. Just to give a bit of a feel really about what we're aiming to do is we want to be accessible. We're out there in communities of Sheffield, and you'll see in later slides where we are in Sheffield and how you can connect to us, and also around our Family Hub network, which I'll talk a bit more about later. It's about accessibility. We want people to be able to walk into their local Family Hub, to be able to access our support virtually and out in their community, so that actually people can connect to support as easily as possible. And as you know, to that point, we want people to be better connected. I say that we offer signposting across that whole age range, but actually what we're working more and more towards is making sure that if somebody is using our services, if somebody walks into our hubs, if somebody contacts us, that we're able to connect people to the professionals and the support that's out there, particularly important within that special educational needs landscape. Knowing what's out there to be supported. And what we always talk about with our staff and with the people that are connected to us is, you may not know, but we need to be able to say to people, I can connect you to this, or I'm not sure where to go for this support, but do you know what? I'm going to go away and I'm going to find out. And we have access to lots and lots of professionals that enable us to help and connect people and support that they need in their communities. And thinking about that relationship centered, we want to make sure that not only do we have great relationships with our colleagues, our partners, the stakeholders, we want to have really good relationships with the people that are out there in the community, and ensure that people are having great relationships, and community partners and families are having great relationships with each other, and building the networks of support, the importance of peers, the importance of the voluntary and community sector, doing lots and lots of work, making sure that those relationships we have with each other are supporting the communities to have relationships with each other as well. So where are we? I'm going to skip on to the next slide. The following slide is also a list, so we've got different ways to look at and access this information. So across Sheffield, we have 7 main family hubs, and we have 5 what we call link sites. So those little colourful boxes you can see there are our family hubs. And what we have to do is we have to have those in the communities that are more deprived within the city. But also we have our link sites, some of which have lots and lots on offer. So for instance, one of our link sites is Burngreave, down there in that Burngreave area, and it has lots and lots of support on offer, which I'll talk through a little bit of what we deliver in those centres. And some of those link sites are really small, for instance, like our site up at Brightside. Now, the Brightside site has got a varying offer. It has had breastfeeding support, it's had toddler groups. At the moment, it's delivering speech and language support from our speech and language colleagues. So what we do is we have those main sites that deliver everything across the breadth of support that I'll talk to you about, and those link sites that are there in the community that you can still go along, you can still access help and support, but not necessarily across the whole of the times that I mentioned on the next slide. So on this slide, you can see the addresses of where those places are. All of the main hubs are in bold, and all of our link sites are in those brackets there. It'll give you an idea of where you can access help and support. But as I go through talking to you about how we're working out in our community, you'll also hear a little bit about our family hub network that we're building on to hopefully make sure that we are becoming more and more accessible within the community. So what do we offer? I always say that these slides are a little bit listy, but what I will say is actually those lists start to really demonstrate the breadth of support that you can access from a family hub. Now, of course, we're talking about preparation for adulthood, but as we know, preparation for adulthood starts right at the beginning of a child's journey. And we want to make sure that those children are having the best start in life. You're going to hear lots of that when you talk to colleagues in family hubs. It's about having that best start in life. We're called Best Start Family Hubs. So we start right at the beginning, working around that infant feeding advice and guidance. I won't talk through in great detail about everything that's here, but just to give a bit of a flavour, that infant feeding advice starts antenatally, so before people have their babies, and we're talking to them about things like feeding choices, about things like safer sleep, making sure people know what to access in their local family hubs. And we also will work with families, of course, it's universal. So not only are we working with families with children who are having positive breastfeeding journeys, we're also working with people who maybe have breastfeeding challenges, but we're absolutely working with families who make alternative choices as well. It isn't all about breastfeeding. It's about making sure that when people, whatever choice people make, in that choice of how they feed their baby, we're having those lovely relationships where we're looking at our baby in the eyes. We're building that relationship with the baby. We're building those connections that start to build that, the brain development for that baby, making sure that they're getting that oxytocin and that the parent is getting that oxytocin, which is really, really great for how we all develop, not only as babies, but as parents as well. And we are there to support people with all sorts of needs. Where things become more complex, our infant feeding team will make sure you're connected in with your midwife or your health visitor, and particularly, of course, if we have children who are born with additional needs, but we're there to help absolutely everyone. And that is the case for everything that we offer within Sheffield Family Hubs. So you've got a list of things that we do there. We've got our doula service, which is a volunteer service supporting people antenatally for 6 weeks and postnatally. That's volunteers helping our more vulnerable women and birthing people in Sheffield, working alongside midwifery and health visiting. We offer all sorts of baby groups, toddler groups. We offer our baby massage. People love our baby massage. It's fantastic around building those early relationships, recognising babies' cues. And that's all free to access. Everything we offer is completely free to access. And as you will see there, on several of our slides, we've got our sensory rooms for the community that I'm talking to today. We're thinking, of course, about children with special educational needs. They're not just for children with special education, really there for everybody to access in the community. They're completely free. The sensory rooms are beautiful. You don't need to be a baby or a toddler. Anyone can come and access those sensory rooms across our family hubs. Come along, book in, completely free to access. And of course, that is about ensuring, again, we're working with and developing our little ones, developing our children, and even some of our adults who may be going into groups. They might have access to toddler group within one of our family hubs. They might need sensory breaks. They might need a break for themselves. They might need a break for their little one. We have those rooms that are there to enable people to access, to feel as comfortable as they can be within our settings. You have to excuse me, I've got a slightly dodgy chair that keeps going down. So when you keep seeing me doing this, it's because my chair occasionally drops down. So one of the things I want to say about our groups is they're absolutely there for everybody. They're there for children with special educational needs, for parents with special educational needs. What we know is that not everybody is always comfortable in coming into those universal groups. So we would always urge you to have a conversation with us about how we can make those spaces as accessible and inclusive for you as possible. We are working with colleagues across the SEND landscape to offer more bespoke groups for children. We offer things like discovery groups, our talking toddlers. We want to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible. So there will be more bespoke groups that we can offer, but please do talk to us if you ever feel that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable coming into one of our groups. We will do everything we can to make all of our places and spaces as inclusive as possible. And if indeed you don't feel we're able to do that, talking to us will enable us to understand what people need so we can build and develop around all of our communities in Sheffield. So I've talked a little bit about the things that we offer across the family hubs, just to highlight things like the toilet training and dump the dummy sessions. We support people around accessing that funded early learning offer out there in the community. What my message is have a look at what we offer on the Sheffield directory. Call us, drop in. There's always a family hub coordinator, one of our managers for each of those sites, always someone on duty who will be there to talk to you about what it is you need, what it is you want to access, where you can access it, and how we can make that as inclusive as possible for our communities in Sheffield. And there's all sorts that we offer via things like workshop sessions that we always try and make as inclusive as possible. And as I say, talk to us. We need to know what we're doing well, but we need to know what we need to do better for people within Sheffield as well. And as I said, I promised you lots of lists, didn't I? Lists. So within Sheffield Family Hubs, we are really linked in with our health visiting colleagues. We deliver midwifery service across all of our family hubs, but also we support people to access things like the Healthy Start vitamins. So we need to make sure that what we are doing within these family hubs is about recognising what's going on, what is the need in the community, and making sure we're delivering in those areas. So So lots of you will have come across health visiting, lots of you will have come across midwifery, but some of the things on here you may not know about. So, for instance, our parenting programs, that is delivered by an absolutely fabulous team of parenting specialists that are not actually managed under me, but are very much a kind of sister service, if you will. And they deliver programs across a whole range, from those antenatal, getting ready for having your baby, programs around how to support people when they've had their babies, and all the way through up into adolescence. And what's really important to know is lots of those programs are bespoke and evidence-based around dealing with a variety of special educational needs. We also have our programs called EPEC, Empowering Parents, Empowering Communities, and those are around parenting and support for parents of children with additional needs, particularly on autistic spectrum needs, and they are delivered by parents who have children who have additional needs. So not only are you learning from and working with a peer group of people who are all experiencing similar things, that is also being delivered by parents from that community, so people can feel really, really, they really trust and understand that those people understand lived experience as well. So it's really worth having a look at some of those programs that support professionals and support parents to ensure that they're having the best experience they can and getting the most support that they can to enable their child to be as successful as possible as they move through their life, and indeed, as we say, moving into adulthood. We offer all sorts as well. We have our cost of living support. That is there. We have our DWP colleagues, our colleagues from the Department of Work and Pensions. We work with our colleagues at FACES, that family learning space, thinking about family learning, thinking about adult learning. We deliver in our spaces, ensuring that people are coming in, accessing support in family hubs around adult learning, around getting ready to move into work. And that is there for people of all different levels of need. We work with our employability partners, many of whom are there to support people with additional need, getting ready to be in employment. So there's such a range of things that, you're not only able to access that lovely baby toddler groups, that infant feeding, actually family hubs are a place that you can come to for all sorts of help and support. And what I'll reiterate again is, if we don't do it, we will help and support you to connect to what it is that you need for yourself, and as your children and young people, or children and young people that you're working with, are moving through their journey and into adulthood. And there's a link there to the Sheffield Directory. Often when I'm in a room, I'll get people to put their hands up and tell me whether they're aware of the Sheffield Directory. Obviously, I can't necessarily see you here. The Sheffield Directory is there. Part of the Sheffield Directory is the local offer, which hopefully lots of you will be aware of, that online resource to understand what is out there for our children, for our families, and for our young people moving into adulthood. But the Sheffield Directory is also broader than that. It's about understanding what is out there, professionals being able to understand and access what is out there for families, but also families to be able to go on and find out what's going on in their area. The great thing about the Sheffield Directory as well is that if people that you're working with, or indeed, you are maybe not as confident in English as a first language, then that is translatable into, I believe, 70 different languages, and you can print off booklets within that Sheffield Directory, keep it with you, take it out, so you've got that information to hand, either in English or in many, many of the community languages, which we hope is helpful to lots of people. I think this is my last list. But when we're talking about the work that we do, we also have links in with shelter. Lots of people struggle with housing, with the legalities around their housing need, and that can often be about the housing being suitable for need. We do have shelter drop-ins now at 2 of our family hubs. That's Darnall and First Start. And people can come along and get legal advice around their housing situation. As I've already said, we have our DWP colleagues. They can support people with not only working towards work, help with CVs, help with linking to appropriate work and progress towards work. They can also help with maximising benefits, making sure that people are getting all the benefits that they are entitled to and helping them to access that. We know that that can be a real challenge making sure you've got everything you're entitled to. And we've had our DWP colleagues find literally thousands for people who can be absolutely life-changing. So send there, we have obviously one of our key colleagues, one of our key partners is our Sendias colleagues, our information and advice service at Sendias, but we also have links in, and some of our family hubs deliver the family action support. We also offer wellbeing clinics. It is for people who are being supported by either family hubs or our FIS colleagues. We offer wellbeing clinics for people who have children who have special educational needs as well, and all sorts of other support that's there. I'll highlight, rather than reading through all of it, I will highlight our PAIRS and perinatal mental health and our light peer support service. That is there to support people with mild to moderate need in terms of perinatal mental health, that the light peer support service. When people have had babies, it can be challenging sometimes with postnatal depression or moderate to mild need, and coming and accessing support around when people have had babies can be really, really helpful for people's mental health, help them feel resilient in the way that they're managing, and that is there for all parents. So we may have parents who do have additional needs, that is there for all parents to help and support them when they have their babies. Some pictures of our sensory rooms that I've already highlighted. There's a link there. You will, I think, Maria, can you confirm people will get the presentation afterwards?
Yeah.
All
They
these
will.
links
I'm
have been
sharing
checked
it.
in the last few weeks. They're all live and should be up to date. So you can click on there and you can go along, you can book onto a sensory room there. So, volunteer opportunities. I won't talk a great deal about this, but I just want people to be aware that there are opportunities for all people to come along and volunteer for our family hubs. It's a really, really important element of the work that we do, that we are working with our communities, having people that are in and of the community that are helping people across Sheffield. I've already talked about empowering parents, empowering communities, which is, as I say, a volunteer led parenting programme, particularly in this kind of send space. We have our doula volunteers that I've mentioned. We have our infant feeding volunteers. So it's really important that we make sure that we are promoting those volunteer opportunities. It helps people not only to be able to get out in the community, to give back to their community, but it also helps as a bit of a stepping stone for people getting into careers, whether that's in the council, whether that's in the NHS, all sorts of careers. That really helps people as a jumping off point as well. So anybody is encouraged to promote and come and talk to us about volunteer opportunities, because we love to have people from communities coming in and helping us to deliver. So it's really, really important is feedback. We're talking about special educational needs and that sense space here. It's really important that we hear from people about what it is that we want from our communities. We have our parent carer panels where we ask people, and this is at the moment, it's for those parents of children 0 to 2, because it's about feeding back about that really early offer for families, but we want to hear and build on that through things like general feedback. We want to hear from parents. We have feedback boxes in all our family hubs. Every activity we run, we ask for feedback from people. We are asking for parent representation on our governance meetings. We've had parent representation on our governance meetings to make sure that we are hearing from our community. But also we want to make sure that, if you're coming into your family hubs, you are telling us what it is you need. If you come to one of our groups and you feel that it isn't as accessible as you'd like it to be, tell us. How do we make that more accessible? What can we do ourselves, and what can we do to link in with other professionals to make everything we do as accessible and supportive as it can be? And to that point, we have family hub coordinators who work in every locality in Sheffield. Those family hub coordinators are there to coordinate those buildings, to manage the staff, to make sure we are delivering what is needed in those areas. And so they are there and they're available to talk to anybody about what it is that people want within their community. So I would encourage, it says their professional feedback, because we generally do this presentation to professionals, but this is absolutely open to anybody to contact family hub coordinators in their area. Say, I want to have a chat. you know, this is what I see in my area. This is what we would like to have in our locality. You know, if you've got a voice, come along and be represented on our locality boards. We are absolutely open to having feedback and working with our communities to make things as good as they can be. I've already talked about the Sheffield directory. We really like our families to register with Sheffield Family Hubs. You do not have to be registered to come and access any of our groups. You don't have to, you know, have your name down on one of these registration forms, but what this enables us to do, if we get our families registered with us, is it means that we can get in touch with those families and give them information. We send a letter quarterly, an email, sorry, quarterly, that says this is what's going on in your area. This is what the provision that's in your area. Here's what you can access out there, to make sure that people know what's on offer to them, that they can come into a family hub or a family hub network site and ask for help, that there are these toddler groups and baby groups and different groups for people with different needs going on in areas. So it helps us to communicate really what we're doing with families. But also, you know, it enables us to understand who's out there. Who are our families? Who is accessing? Who isn't? How do we target the work that we're doing? How do we provide what we need to provide for families? So please do, if you're a parent, please do register with Sheffield Family Hub so you can get that information. If you're a professional, please do encourage people to register with Sheffield Family Hubs, because it really helps us to communicate with them and to understand who's out there. I've talked a lot about the universal work that we do, and as it said there, that the vast majority of everything that we do do not need a referral. People can just turn up and come and access the help and support that we have on offer. But we do offer some one-to-one support. It's that lower level support. We have colleagues across the city that work on a much more intensive basis. We have our family intervention service colleagues, as an example, who work much more intensively with families where there's lots of needs, and that needs that kind of whole wraparound support around that family for a more prolonged period of time. But our prevention workers within Sheffield Family Hubs will also work one-to-one with families. Where maybe families don't feel as confident to come into the family hubs, we would hope to go and work with them in their home. Maybe we're going and doing some modelling around play. Maybe we're helping them access support in the community. Maybe we're helping them to access housing or benefits support. But also it's about building the confidence of those families to be able to get out and work in our community. So it might be that someone thinks, actually, I really want to get out into one of the groups in the community to help build my child's, you know, build my child's ability to interact with other children, to build my child's literacy skills and build their fine motor and their gross motor skills. You know, I want to get out into those groups, but maybe I don't feel that confident. We can get one of our prevention workers to come out. We can get them to come out and work in the home, build their confidence, show their face, say, this is me, I deliver the group, I'll come and meet you at the door. You know, it's really about doing what we can to build people's confidence to come out and access the community. But if they're not ready yet, we'll go into their home so we can work with them in their home as well. That is a referral service, and we do ask, people can refer themselves, but we ask for an early health assessment, ideally, if it's coming from a professional, and we'll go out and we'll offer that low level support in the family home to get people hopefully feeling more confident out in their community. That's for the professionals in the room. If anybody wants to do an early help assessment, that's for the professionals in the room. Just a kind of aid memoir around how you would refer in using that, but I'm not going to go on about that particular element. If you do want more information about early help assessment, all of the links are there. And of course, you can always phone us to talk to us about how we make sure we support people to access services. I always like to give a shout out to the Early Help Training Partnership. We offer a version of this presentation on the Early Help Training Partnership for the professionals in this virtual room today. If you are not signed up and you're not looking at the Early Help Training Partnership, you're obviously interested in building your skill and knowledge around what's out there to support families. There is all sorts on the Early Help Training Partnership. There's a tiny little list there of the sorts things that you can go and get more detail about. All the things I've spoken to you about today, the infant feeding team, the doula, the SENDIAS, DWP, you can go and get lots more information about on that early help training partnership, if you're a professional within that system. So please do have a little look at that. It's all free to access. There's loads of lunch and learns on there, because we know as professionals not everybody is able to access a half day, a full day, 2 days of training. There's lots and lots of lunch and learns on there that enables you to sit down, hopefully like you are today, having a sandwich, having a cup of coffee, hopefully taking a break from your day job and just learning and absorbing some of that amazing information that's out there about the early help support system. So I really would urge people to have a little look at that. Just gonna have a little talk quite a while without a drink, so
That's allowed, Emily. You're allowed to have a drink.
and a breath.
And a breath.
I talk fast, but when you replay this back, you can probably slow me down a little bit.
Oh, it's been
I'm used
really
to doing this
great.
presentation in 15 minutes, so as you can imagine, I'm used to doing it really quick. I'm trying to take my time a bit more.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's great.
So I've talked a bit about the Family Hub Network right at the beginning, about that connection to the community. We have at the moment 20 something Family Hub Network members. But what we want to do is be as connected to the voluntary and community sector as possible. What goes out in our voluntary and community sector and our faith sector is absolutely incredible. And what we've been told for years by the sector is, we do amazing work, our families trust us, we do all this, we do it on our own, we need to be connected, we need to know what is out there. The most important thing that we can do is know what's out there and be able to connect to the support that's out there. Because very often, within, particularly I've heard over the years across, the special needs, the SEND landscape is, there's nothing out there for us. And indeed, there could always be more. Of course, there can. But there is lots going on out there in the voluntary and community sector, as well as that kind of the NHS and family hubs and all sorts of sectors. People need to be connected to it. And so the Family Hub Network is there for lots of reasons, but it's about making sure that all those people in the voluntary community sector are connected to each other, understand what each other do, that they have access to the training and development that they've been crying out for years, that they have access to things like the Sheffield Directory and each other, and that within those localities that they can understand back to, if I can't help you, I know somebody who can. I don't know the answer, but I know who to go to find out. And we want to make sure, as we've said, that we have that connection, that better connection across families and services, that right information to families at the right time, meet families' need at the earliest opportunity, and to work whole family, making sure we offer that seamless support. And I hope that's the first slide I've actually read off today. But I just want to be really clear that that is the aim of what we want to do with the Family Hub Network, and it is absolutely building out there. You'll start to see voluntary community sector organisations that are saying, we are part of the Family Hub Network. You don't ever need to come into a family hub to be able to know that you can go and talk to the people in this place and they will connect you to the help and support you need, because they're connected to the intelligence in the area. And finally, I really want to promote linking in with our social media. It's a really big part of what we want to do is making sure that we are telling people what's out there. So if you go and you look at our YouTube channels, there's all sorts of information on our YouTube channels about what's out there to support families. There's a QR code there for the Sheffield Directory, which I've mentioned, but please do consider joining our family hubs or Facebook or Instagram pages, or indeed both, because it's a way that we can talk to you about what's happening. It's a way that we can, ensure that that in your community that's there. It's a way that it can remind you that we're available, and that's there. Absolutely professionals, but please do get families to follow us, because we're always posting all sorts of useful information on there for families, so that people know where to go for help and support. And to the point about, this is about preparation for adulthood. just to go back to that point, preparation for adulthood starts right at the beginning, making sure those children are developing, making sure those children have the opportunity to play, making sure that parents have the opportunity for connection, but also for our children as they get older to know that they have a place that they can go to in the community to ask for help and support and to connect with other people. So that is the end of the presentation. That is a whistle-stop tour. So are there any questions, Maria, in the chat for me?
Well, Emily, thank you so much. That's been so informative, and I think just really reassuring to know that there is just a safe place people can go to be, signposted to all kinds of support. Like I've been doing this job for, I think, almost 4 years, and I'm both like always impressed by what's available, but also like overwhelmed sometimes. And like I can only imagine, how difficult it is for families who, might be carrying a lot of stress and, have a lot on their plate to be able to figure out what to do. So just knowing that there's somewhere that they can go where they'll be met with a warm welcome and be then signposted to all of the support available. I just think it's really brilliant. So thank you so much for your overview of everything that you offer. In terms of questions, so Gillian asked, has this service changed over the last 15 years? She wasn't made aware of any of this when her child was born, and it would have been really useful.
Okay, so without wanting to get into politics, many of you may have heard, and we sometimes get our hands slapped on them. Many of you may have heard of Sure Start. Of course, things changed in terms of Sure Start as we went into a period of reduced funding. So we had many, many Sure Starts across the city. That reduced significantly down to the 7 family centres that had a much reduced offer. And then in 2022, the previous government did start the Family Hubs and Start for Life programme. So anyone who works in public sector knows that these things change with the, change and reiterate with the government. We had family centres, which was a much more reduced offer, but we did get some funding to start the Sheffield Family Hubs. And it was when we got the funding to start Sheffield Family Hubs that built on our family centre offer in Sheffield. We were able to really build a lot of what I've talked to you about today, to kind of rebuild on what had often previously been there with new iterations. And we have really fortunately been given funding now to 2029 to continue this journey for Family Hubs. So we're enabled to continue and embed the work that we're doing. So yeah, it has changed. It has ebbed and flowed over the years. I also have had babies in the last, my eldest is 12. And whilst I knew about family centres, the offer was of course much reduced because the funding wasn't there as much, but we now actually have a much better funding offer. It's not what Sure Start was many, many moons ago, but we have a much better funding offer now, and we're able to continue to deliver and promote the work that we're doing. So yeah, it has changed and ebbed and flowed over the years. The great thing is we've got it till 2029 and it's looking really promising, and we're trying to build a really sustainable model across the city because we want to be mindful of those ebbs and flows.
Yeah, thank you for that, Emily. Suzanne has shared a comment and also a question. So she said, I think that the lived experience and peer group support is massively important for our SEND parents. They often express how useful it is to speak to people who understand their needs. I love that this is happening. And then she's asked, can post-16 parents access the family hubs for DWP advice?
Yes, yes, they can. It's for all parents of children 0 to 19 and 25, of course, for our families with children with SEND. So yes, they can.
Brilliant. And because that's definitely something that just comes up time and time again.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
Yeah, it's really important. One of the things that we are challenged to do is to make sure that whilst, the delivery of groups, delivery of baby groups, of course, they're for children under 5 because lots of the children go to school, but lots of what we offer is absolutely there across that age range. And that's a real aspect of being able to connect people to support across that whole age range.
Yeah, and I think, Emily, it's obviously really reassuring to hear that like help and support is there across the age range, but also that you have emphasized, that preparation for adulthood starts from birth or pregnancy, arguably, and how
Mm.
important those early years are for what then happens later on. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just really good to to hear you saying that that's the kind of philosophy that you share, because it's something that obviously in the send world, especially those of us who are working in kind of post 16, we can really see how positive experiences early on really make such a massive difference. Just having a look to see if there's any more questions. I don't think there is any more questions in the chat. If anyone does have any more questions from Emily, please can you share them? Um, I suppose from my perspective, I just wanted to clarify, it is anybody that can access Emily that has a child, essentially. That's the
Yeah, absolutely. We have people who come in who don't have children, and we will still connect them to the help and support they need.
they
Ultimately,
need.
we're one of those women welcoming. We're not out there saying, please send absolutely everybody to us. But, if somebody walks in that doesn't have a child, which we do have, we have people who walk in who are fleeing domestic abuse. We have, and we will never turn somebody away. We will always try and do our best to help them, or at least make sure they know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Gillian's asked, what would you advise for preparing for post-16 educational settings? Um, so I think, Gillian, that might be more, well, I don't know, Emily, if you've got anything specifically from your
I'm not
perspective
sure
to
I am.
add.
Don't fully understand the question. It might be because that's not my area.
What I
I
can
don't know if you
say
want to
though,
just clarify the question, but I think that's probably more a Maria question than an Emily
bring your
question.
question. Gillian,
Or an I don't know, but I'll go and find out as long as I understand the question.
yeah, well, Gillian, what I can say is in terms of post-16 education options, we do have a post-16 guide for young people, which has the offer at level 2 and below in the city, and that is on the local offer. I will share a link to that so you can have a look at it. It's in the process of being updated, so there'll be a new iteration of that coming soon. That would probably be a good starting point. If your young person is looking at level 3 programs, Sheffield Progress is the system we use in Sheffield for making applications, and they will have that will have all of the courses on offer on Sheffield Progress. Right, okay, I'm just looking at what you said, Gillian, about your child leaving school next year, and they want to think about our options as he has ASD. So, like I said, I think obviously it depends on academic ability or like academic achievement as to what level they will go on to. But the guide that I'm going to share with you in a second details all of the options. And Gillian, I will drop you an email as well so that you've got you can ask me a more specific question if you'd like to. Um, Lisa's asked, have you got a link to join post 16 info sessions example snips? So I will, Lisa, if this might help, is that in a moment, if we've got no more questions for Emily, I'm going to share some information about the forthcoming sessions. So that may help to clarify kind of where you can get more information about post 16. So before I do that, just one last call for any questions for Emily and the family hubs. Or are we all good? All good? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. Um, if technology doesn't fail me. So just a moment. So hopefully everybody can see this. So just as a reminder, I said at the beginning of the event, but I know that people will have joined a bit later. All of these events are recorded and all of the resources are shared on our local offer, which, as Emily talked about earlier, is part of the Sheffield directory. So everyone who's attended today will receive a link to this page, which will have today's event, the resources and a notes page included, but you can also go back and have a look at all of the different events that we've held so far. Lisa, just back to your question about post 16, I would suggest it might be helpful to look at the very first one of these sessions that we ran, because we talked about preparation for adulthood, kind of a big overview. So you might find that useful to have a look at. And then in terms of the upcoming events, I will send this to everyone that has attended today. We've got a number scheduled. The next one is in March. That's with MenCap. Then we'll have Sheffield College, who'll be talking about their Bloom offer in April. We then have Opportunity Sheffield, which is Sheffield City Council's Employment and Skills Service. And they have a team specifically that work with people who've got learning disabilities, but they also have a much broader offer than that. So they will be coming to talk about that. We then have an event in May with the Shared Lives Service. We have another event in May with DWP. We have one in June with our IAG service. So that is our information, advice and guidance service, which is part of Sheffield City Council. And they have a specific team of careers advisors that work with young people who have special educational needs, but they also offer broader support to young people who aren't in education, employment or training. And then we'll round off this academic year with Autism Plus, who offer support for people with or without an autism diagnosis who are looking for support to get into work. So that's what we've got planned so far. I'm going to share with you the link to Eventbrite so that you can book online to attend any or all of these events. Please do share them with anyone you know that you think may find them useful. But also, please can you share your feedback with me as well? Hopefully you can see the QR code there to scan and leave some feedback on today's event. Part of the feedback we're collecting is about what you would also like to see, because I recognise that we haven't included every service that it might be useful for you to hear from. So please do share your feedback with me so that we can plan and offer you something that's really, really useful. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Please, if anyone has any questions for me or Emily, please do share them in the chat. We'll just give it another minute before we sign off. And I did promise, didn't I, that I was going to share a link to the guide. So I'm going to do that now before we finish. And just as a reminder, the post-16 guide for young people details the offer in Sheffield at level 2 and below. So it doesn't include the kind of A-level offer. And the main reason for that is that offer is tends to be very well understood, but the offer at level 2 and below tends to be where it isn't as well understood and there's probably more gaps. This will give you an idea of what is on offer, but it is always a changing piece. So always make sure to check in with the specific education provider as to whether or not they're still offering that course, but largely it will be correct. And I don't see any more questions. So Emily, thank you so much for coming along today. That was really good. And
Most welcome. Thank you.
yeah, and we'll see everyone soon. Thank you so much.
Lovely.
Bye.